Right, before I start the talk officially, I'm just saying to the people who've joined us online that I'm about to press record. The purpose of that is that there are one or two parents who want to listen to the recording but are not able to join now, so we'll send that out in the next few days. Okay, so my name is Susie Green. Hopefully most of you know who I am from things like open evenings and things like that. I am head of sixth form, which is the best, and I would also say hardest job I've ever had in my life. The thing that makes it amazing is working with so many fab young people every single day. It's a real privilege, and I am just so delighted that you're all here, and I'm so delighted that every single one of you chose to join the family of Finnan Park Sixth Form. You are so welcome. In a minute, I'm going to introduce my colleagues, but firstly, do come in and sit down. You're very welcome. We'll just do a couple of very, very quick introductions. So, obviously, hang on, bear with me 1 second. There we go. Right, so this is me, head of sixth form. Mr. Shepherd and Mrs. Gossel, who are to my right, are both assistant heads of sixth form. And Mrs. Wright on the end is our administrator. She's amazing. She knows everything. If you have any logistical questions about the day-to-day happenings at the sixth form, speak to her, because she just holds it all in her head all the time. I couldn't survive without her. And then I don't have pictures of these three, but there's Miss Armitage. She is the wellbeing queen. She is a non-teaching member of staff, and her role is literally to spend the day talking to students, seeing if they're okay, having one-to-ones, making sure they've got everything they need. And so obviously she's able to wander around the study spaces, but there are also QR codes around the sixth form. If students want to self-refer to have a one-to-one with Miss Armitage, maybe they're feeling anxious, overwhelmed, they can do that and she will pick them up. Mrs. Davis is our academic mentor. Her purpose is to support students with the academic side of sixth form. Now, clearly, the transition from 11 to 12 is difficult, both in terms of the standard of work, but also in terms of the requirements for independent study. Independent study is huge, and it's something students just haven't really done before. And Mrs. Davis will support them. If they are struggling, she will have one-to-ones with them. She'll help them with their folders. She'll help them organise their notes. Indeed, what she will do is she'll hold them accountable. If you know your child is somebody, or you know as a student that you're not going to be particularly accountable for your independent study, knowing that your summer exams are several months away, then you can meet with Mrs. Davis and she will help you come up with what you're going to do that week, see you again a week later and hold you accountable for whether or not you've done that. Now, there are students who take to independent study like a duck to water, and there are some students who maybe it takes that little bit more encouragement. Students or parents of students, if you know that that is you, then Mrs. Davis is a resource to draw upon. She's here for a reason. Please use her. Both Ms. Armitage and Mrs. Davis are here tonight. Ms. Armitage is in the Wellbeing Hub, and Mrs. Davis, we can point you in the direction of her office. They have some pre-booked one-to-ones, but they're also available. So if you would like to use their services, please do pop and see them before you leave. Laura Mitchell is our sixth form counsellor. She's fully qualified as a counsellor. She also is a specialist in the late teenage years, which is why we've employed her for the sixth form. Her waiting list is about 3 weeks. Students can self-refer, and students, I've said to you this before, if you self-refer, nobody, unless there's a serious safeguarding issue, needs to know that you are seeing the counsellor. I don't need to know, your families don't need to know, that provision is there for you. If your child is on one of these endless NHS waiting lists for mental health support, I could not recommend more that you use Laura as an interim support, because she will give the students some tools to get through that time waiting for that support. Please do consider using our lovely colleagues in these resources. So our mentor team, we're very privileged to have such an experienced mentor team. I'm hoping that you've already met your child's mentor. The names of the different mentors are here, and some of them are here in the room. Throughout the whole of sixth form, these will be the first port of call. They will know your child, they'll see them for half an hour a day. They will write their references in a year's time when they're applying to university, college or an apprenticeship. And so please do form those relationships. They are a lovely group of people who will support the students. Now, communication with parents. This is so difficult to get right. We get feedback from parents that we communicate too much. We get feedback that we communicate too little, and we try to get it right. What I would say is, if you think our communication is rubbish, please tell us. It's something we put a lot of thought into. We think very carefully about how to do it. So if we're getting it wrong, it's not through malice. We just haven't understood it. So please communicate with us if you don't like what we're doing. As much as possible, I will send all the information that you need through the weekly bulletin. I sent the first one last week. Hopefully you received it. and you will have noticed that gives you lots and lots of info about what's going on. There will be occasions we realise that not everybody reads the bulletin 100% every single week. And so if there's something particularly urgent, we will back it up with an email. For example, tonight, we didn't want you to miss out, so we sent a separate email making sure everyone had noted that tonight was happening. The other thing is, to make you aware of, at this stage, some communication does go through students only. They are moving towards adulthood. Now, we are aware that some students have maybe special educational needs, problems with organisation. Miss Armitage and Mrs Davis will work with children to support them. And if that is your child, we'll make sure that you get all the information you need. So don't worry. If you think that your child might just not have highlighted themselves as somebody who might need a bit of extra support with communication, please do let us know so that we make sure nothing is missed. Also, any academic communication with the students will be done through Google Classroom. If you don't know what Google Classroom is, it is amazing. They will have, it's effectively a bit like a subject Facebook page for every subject. There's one for careers, there's one for general sixth form stuff, and teachers will post all the lesson resources, anything like that, any homework on there. If you think your child is not going to be keeping up with their studying, you can request to be added to that as a parent, so you can basically stalk them and what they are doing. If you would like that, contact your child's teachers and they'll just add you on. It's a quick job. Right then, I'm going to hand over to Mr. Shepherd.
Again, it's good to come on to this key page slide. In terms of communication, Miss Green mentioned about the weekly newsletter, and all of these key dates will be on the newsletters as they transpose or transpire across the weeks. We've got Meet the Mentor tonight. Students have had an assembly this week about an NCS programme, which is a summer camp programme that students can access and go on where they can support younger students at camps. And again, I'm going to talk a little bit later about enrichment and enriching any kind of experience they have here, which will help to support any applications that they might put through for university or apprenticeships and employment. And something like that is a very, very good thing for students to include or have on a CV or a personal statement or an application. We have the main school open evening next week. We will have our sixth form open. We will have lots and lots going on. So again, please feel welcome to join that. And hopefully we'll have some students that are in here helping us out and supporting us with that as well. Just as a note with relation to that, school will finish slightly earlier and you will get communication if you haven't already done so about that. One thing to be aware of is week beginning the 16th of October, there are going to be in-class assessments for year 12. We do have students that are on contracts in some subjects because they might have just missed grades, and it's really just missed grades to get onto those subjects. And it's really important to note that and note that students will be encouraged to continue if they do well in those exams, but conversations might need to be had with students that maybe don't quite meet requirements in those assessments. And again, on the 26th of October, a careers meeting that will be conducted by Miss Green, and that will be remote online. You will be sent an invitation to that. Information will go out on the weekly bulletin related to that. And that is a really good starting point for a lot of the stuff that students are going to do over year 12 and year 13 in relation to stuff I've just talked about: careers, apprenticeships, employment, and particularly UCAS. Timings of the day. A lot of people will know those in here. Some people may not be familiar with these. The timings of the day are exactly the same as what they were last year. For any new parents that we have, they are up there. Key things to note: 8:45 is when period 1 starts. That is different in terms of what it's called. It used to be called Learning Mentor Time. It's now called period 1. I'm going to talk about a comprehensive programme that takes place in period 1 a little bit later, but we wanted to add value to that time, so we thought calling it period 1 would do that. That starts at 8:45, so it's quite important that students are in on the premises and in with their mentor at 8:45 to start that session, and school finishes at 3:15. And year 12 students are in full time, so they won't be expected to leave before 3:15. Again, I talked about students that might be on contracts in certain subjects. The enrolment process can be a little bit crazy. Some students might have picked 4 subjects with a view to narrowing down to 3. I've had meetings with students that have picked a subject which they've never studied before. They had all good intentions to study it, but then when it came to it, it wasn't quite what they thought it would be. Students can still change course. And it's quite important that students, if they're having a little wobble, that they do talk to us, have a conversation with us, have a conversation with their teachers, and we can look to facilitate course changes up until that date, which is Monday, the 16th of October. Students will only be allowed onto other courses, as it says up there, if they have met the admission requirements for those particular courses. It can be a little bit more tricky to change after the 16th of October, but it can be done. Can't chop and change. We don't want this. It's a nightmare for staff to have students coming in and out of subjects, and it's not going to help the students. So there will be a sort of agreement that if a student goes out of a subject, they're not really allowed to go back in it.
Just a really quick one on this. There are a number of students in our sixth form over the years who come to us and tell us they want to change their pronouns, their gender, or their name on the system, just to provide some reassurance that this is something that is about as common as Tuesday afternoons in our sixth form. It's not a big deal at all. If that's something you would like to do, tell your mentor discreetly and we can have it happen almost instantly. Mrs. Gossel.
Yes, just following on from that, I mean, it's a lot what the Year 12s have to go through. It's a massive transition, and we do understand it and we appreciate what they are going through. Early teenage years going into young adults, so their mental well-being is really the most important for us. And for that reason, there is a lot of support for our young students. Their first point of contact is their mentor. So if they can go and see them, be it academic pressures, any other kind of pressure that they might be feeling, the mentor will be able to help. And it's not just that, as Liz had said before, that we've got Ms. Armitage, who's always there for the students to listen to them as well. We've got a dedicated counsellor for sixth form students, Laura Mitchell. They can actually self-refer and go with her as well. And obviously all of the sixth form team is there to support the students. So it's really important that their well-being is looked after for them to have an enjoyable time in sixth form at Finnan Park School. Those are our core values. Yes, academics is important, but as you may, some of you have already seen these are Finnan's core values, and we really do adhere to these, and we think these are very, very important for our students as well.
Thank you. So one of my favourite things that we offer, one of my favourite things that we offer to students are our Period 6 books. Now, I can't really call them Period 6 talks anymore, because Period 6 talks was something we launched 2 years ago as a brand new thing, and now they've changed the names of the school day, so the last period is called Period 6. I haven't quite been prepared to part with the name because it was my baby 2 years ago, but I will at some point come up with a new name. Anyway, the point that matters is that after school every Monday, apart from you'll notice one is a Wednesday, we have an outside speaker into school. The reason for that is it's very easy for the academic curriculum at post 16 to become narrowed. Students pick their 3 or their 4 subjects, and that's what they do. Now, I believe strongly that it's important sixth forms don't just become exam factories. Students should learn because they love learning. I love learning. I go home and do maths puzzles for fun because I enjoy them, and I hope that our students learn that love of learning from us. And so each Monday we have a completely random speaker. Some of it's careers related, some of it's just awesome knowledge. The one we had 2 weeks ago was 2 doctors from Coventry University who have opposing views on whether the organisation Just Stop Oil should be labelled as terrorists. And watching these 2 academics who write the books about this, debating it, was awesome. We had about 60 students came to watch. Last week, we had one of our alumnus, Jack Eves, talk about applying for medicine, dentistry or veterinary medicine. Obviously, that was smaller because that's very targeted to certain students. And we have a number of different really, really cool speakers coming in. Now, we have made it compulsory for students to sign up for 4 of these talks. The reason is, firstly, learning's cool. And secondly, it is really important for their CV in the future that they reach outside their subject areas and demonstrate they're prepared to enrich their learning. But we recommend they attend as many as possible because we get these speakers in, the speakers give up their time. It's important there are students there to hear what they have to say. I'm going to hand over to Mr. Shepherd to talk about some of the opportunities students will have.
Again, the Period 6 talks, or the talks that we're calling, that's quite got a name for it, are again part of enriching students' experiences in coming to Finnan Park sixth form, and there's other opportunities they have as well. We don't quite run them, but we offer different leadership opportunities. Ms Gossel talked about independent learning, and we like to try to foster a culture of independence within the students. So there's an opportunity for students to pick up on a student council. There is a sixth form leadership team where we will sort of put together the interview process, the application process. But then once that's done and we've got the sixth form leadership team, we will meet with the students, but they will have their own areas that they will focus on. And it's kind of up to them to work on those areas, to feed back to us that benefit the sixth form and benefit the school as well. We have sports leaders. We've got people that help and support lower school with enrichment clubs, with badminton, with netball. I think we've got some students in here that are going to do it. We're actually running a junior sports leadership award in our enrichment sessions, which happen every other week on a Wednesday afternoon. We have had students that, not through us encouraging them to do so, through them approaching us and saying, can we do this? Can we run this event? That have done lots and lots of work for charity. They have looked at introducing a culture day where students can come to school wearing clothes related to their culture or what they identify as their particular culture. That's all been led by students. The charity events, we had a group of students that put on a music concert last year, and they raised about £400 for the Coventry Music Foundation, which has bought instruments for young children that can't afford their own instruments. And we've had club leaders. We've got a medical society that goes on, which is student led. We've had a chess club. What other clubs have we? We had
Debating society,
debating
law society. We've had loads, you name it.
yeah, loads and loads of stuff. But it's not something that we facilitate. It's down to the students to approach us. We can look at putting a plan together, and then we can support them in doing that. But once it gets going, it's their baby and they run it. And all of that kind of stuff links in with the period 6, with the enrichment, enriching the experience, and also adding value to any kind of application that they might be looking at putting together going forwards. So university applications, apprenticeship applications, applications for employment, all really, really good things that can go on that. Work shadowing links in nicely with that. It is compulsory that students do work shadowing in sixth form. This takes place in year 12, and for this particular cohort of students, it will be the first week after May half term in year 12. It's probably quite important now to start looking at work shadowing opportunities and start contacting companies, employers, with a view to a placement that not only interests the student, but also aligns with any kind of ambitions they have going forwards with either employment or applications to the university or apprenticeships. Often places get full, popular places get really, really full. So starting that kind of process now is very, very, very important. What we can do as well, we understand that some people may have an opportunity to do a regular enrichment or work experience, work shadowing placement. And if we think it's appropriate and it can fit in with studies, we can facilitate and allow that to take place as well. But that obviously needs to go through us. I've talked about the timetable enrichment. Every fortnight, so on a Wednesday, I think week 1 for year 12, there is an enrichment programme. That goes away from your traditional academic subjects, and it's all timetabled for the students. As part of the enrolment process, students were asked to pick an enrichment activity. The sport enrichment, there's DIY, there is a board games club, there is maths and accounting for banking and finance. There is a personal statement writing enrichment club, and there's lots and lots of opportunity for students in that timetable time to do something that they will enjoy. Again, that will enrich their experience and that they might find useful or enjoyable. Careers, there is a Google Classroom. If they haven't already done so, that has gone out through Learning Mentors, but I would thoroughly encourage students to join that Careers Classroom. Things that get posted on that could be university open days, any kind of support schemes that universities might put in place. Warwick University are running one. Any apprenticeship opportunities, sometimes work shadowing or work placement opportunities go on that particular Google Classroom as well. And a lot of the UCAS stuff that we will do going forward, that Miss Green will introduce on their careers meeting, will also go on that Google Classroom. So that will form a basis of your university applications, apprenticeship applications, employment applications as well. We are also very, very lucky to have on-site careers advisor, and I'm sure some of you will have spoken to Miss Hook, or some of the students in here will have spoken to Miss Hook. We're lucky that we have Miss Hook available. So if we're not available, we haven't quite got the expertise to talk about it. Miss Hook can advise students in terms of careers and, again, apprenticeships, employment and university applications. I'll quickly flick onto this before Miss Gossel talks about independent learning. We have rebranded Learning Mentor Time as period 1, and that now has gone from 15 minutes a couple of years ago up to 30 minutes. And we think that's great because so much can be done in that time. A lot of stuff we've already talked about, things like introductions to work experience and work shadowing, a lot of the careers aspects that we cover and careers guidance takes place during period 1. All of the introductory sessions to UCAS applications will take place in period 1. A lot of study skill supports take place in period 1. Students have had a session this morning on how to take Cornell notes, which we think is really, really vital and important for them in their academic studies, that they can take good, efficient, legible and supportive notes. There's a PSHRE programme that runs in period 1, which supports the students with things we think are relevant to their age as it stands. So we have programmes on keeping stay, saying stay, sexual harassment, consent, drugs education, alcohol, sex education. All of that is covered in our period 1 sessions. Life skills, we've covered that. We've got a Wednesday session every week where we talk about current affairs as well. Again, university interviews, job interviews can often ask about current affairs and student views on them. So all of this takes place in period 1. It is a very, very good programme that is put together, and it's very well delivered and supported through our mentors. And that's why we try to place emphasis on that, changing the structure of the school day and the name of the school day, and making sure students are in on time to be able to access that programme. Independent study. Yeah.
Should I just take a look at that? So independent study, what is it? This is the biggest change for our workshop students and for parents for that matter as well. How can you support your child with independent study? So we have study periods, as you may have looked at their timetables. It is not a free period, as they like to call it. And we actually just stress on the fact that it's a study period where they're meant to be doing some independent work. They've got lots of different locations they can do this independent study in. As you can see there, you've got the study area, which is downstairs. You may have seen that in T block. There's a silent study area upstairs. We've got the Cafe 6, we've got the library, which is quiet as well. And there's an ICT suite where there's computer to be doing any work in. And to add to that, we also have access to Warwick University Library as well as Coventry University Library. So if you want access for that, students will do this is right, and get free access codes for us to actually use that in their after school time that they have, or weekends for that matter as well. Now, students know this already because we've shared that with them, that every subject they should be spending roughly about 5 hours in a minimum in a week studying for that subject. So that means that it's not just doing the homework in the study period, it is doing more revision. It's about going over the concepts again and doing some extended reading. So if I can just sort of show you a couple of things that might help you support your child at home. Cycle of independent learning, every single subject will have the cycle of independent learning, which actually shows and supports the students what they need to do after a particular lesson. And this is something, year 12, you can actually go back today and start, if you haven't already started this, revisit the lesson, use your resources that the teachers have told you for that subject, test yourselves. You've got Kahoot, you've got little Q&As that you can do. Perhaps parents can help them as well with some testing, retest, update your personal learning checklist that would be given to you by your teachers as well, and then revise. And as you can see, revision is key. So that's really important to recapping. Okay, so read through your notes and you will find that suddenly there are lots of notes to write moving from GCSE into A level. Notes may not be legible. You suddenly go home and then you see what is it that you've actually written. So it's about going back through your notes, rewriting your notes, making them, as Sir said, the Cornell notes, you can use that format that was taught to you this morning, and that's going to be formatting it so it's easier for you to revise and recap. Again, any support like that at home would be fantastic. Highlighting key points, summarizing your notes, and not just copying them down is the way to actually remember and recap concepts as well. And making connections. For A level, what's really important is not to look at topics individually, because to write those sophisticated answers for A levels, to get the higher grades, it's making those connections with the different topics, adding that to your answer is what leads to that shift from a GCSE style answer to an A level answer. So again, make those connections, and extended reading is really important. Remember, your students have chosen these subjects to become masters in these subjects, to show passion for that subject that they're learning. They need to do some extended reading so it supports their answers, and they can really, again, write sophisticated A-level standard answers. So if you can support with that, that'd be wonderful. So just a brief sort of a introduction about how to revise.
Thank you. I'm just going to wrap up now, but I would ask if probably the biggest thing that you can all do to support us as parents is please do not let your child talk about free periods. They're not free periods, they are study periods. The purpose of them is studying, and students, there's this myth that they'll come into year 12 and they'll have all this free time, they'll sit around, they'll play cards, they'll get drinks in the cafe. Not going to happen. And when students use the language of free periods, and we sometimes hear parents or guardians also using the language of free periods, it can almost condone the students doing that. It is really important. They've chosen to come to sixth form because they want the structure of the school day, I imagine, rather than going to college or whatever. So please do support us with using the language study periods rather than free periods. Now, I'm not going to read out our expectations. I'm just going to say this. We try to treat the students as adults where we can. Clearly, they mostly are. And I would say the year group with your child in is probably one of the most amazing adult year groups that I've ever worked with. I've been at Finnan Park for 10 years now, and it's probably the most adult year group I've worked with. However, obviously, we have to have boundaries. We have to keep everyone safe. The sixth form has got well over 400 students in, and we need to make sure that everyone's respectful. And there will be times that we can't treat them like adults. For example, earlier in the week, we had a day that was particularly poor for litter. And so we had to have a brutal assembly about that. It is not appropriate for the environment or for other students' learning environment if there's litter. And so on those occasions, we won't treat them like adults. We'll treat them like students and tell them how it is. For example, students will have to be on time when they go to work. We stand by the fact we want them to be on time for school, and we will set those boundaries and we'll set them firmly. But where possible, we commit to treating students like adults, and please do support us with those expectations. They are just there so that we can keep everyone safe and make sure everyone has a good experience. Now, the last thing I'm going to finish with is what we believe you can expect from us. Now, we try so hard to get it right. We really do. We work our absolute hardest to make sure that the children at Finnan Park Sixth Form and the parents and everyone in the Finnan Park Sixth Form family has a good time. If we get it wrong, please just tell us. It's not because we've done it maliciously. It's not because we're lazy. It's because we didn't realise we got it wrong. So if you feel that what we're doing is not working for you and your family, please just come and speak to us, and we'll do everything we can to put it right. We commit to giving you good quality lessons, lots of support, advice and guidance, and network. The network and community at Finnan Park Sixth Form is amazing. Extracurricular activities, rewards as appropriate, and finally fun. We want students to enjoy the sixth form. We've talked a lot about studying. We hope they love their subjects and they have fun through those, but we also hope they make lots of friendships and have a really good time, take advantage of the other opportunities we have available. Now it's 5:18, so I'm going to stop there. If you have any questions, we will stay around for a few minutes at the end, but thank you so much for your time, and I hope to see you online in a few weeks' time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, I'm just going to end the recording.